Our next panel is a powerhouse panel, talk about growth in our region. I'd like to invite to the stage John Ohanian, General Manager of the Silverwood Community, Randal Lewis, Vice President and Principal of Lewis Operating Company, Dana Whitmer, Partner and Chief Development Officer of Covington Group, and Robert Lovingood, ICR Staffing Chairman and retired First District Supervisor. So, should I start with the skeleton? Well, thank you for joining us today. Real quickly, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves and give a little bit of background on yourself and your company. And Dana, we'll start with you.
Great. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Dana Whitmer. I'm the chief.
Oh, mic on?
Does that work?
There we go.
Thanks for having us here today. My name is Dana Whitmer. I'm the Chief Development Officer with Covington Group. We are a real estate investment and development company. Have a nationwide reach, but a real focus here in Southern California, and in particular, the high desert. We have sizable projects in Hesperia, Victorville, and Apple Valley, and looking forward to doing a lot more business here in the years to come.
Thank you. John.
Good morning. I'm John Ohanian. I'm the general manager of the Silverwood project, which is a large master plan community that we're developing in Hesperia. A little over 9,000 acres. It'll be developed into 15,663 homes, about 1.5 million square feet of commercial and support services. Don't worry, those 15,000 homes are going to take us 20 years. So all these conversations about traffic, don't worry. It happens over time.
Oh, thank you. Randal, a little bit about the Lewis companies.
Good morning. My name is Randal Lewis. Our family does real estate throughout the Inland Empire. We do master plan communities, shopping centers, industrial apartments, mixed-use projects. This is what happens to developers who try to do projects outside of the high desert. It takes so long.
Thank you. Robert.
Hi, Robert Lovingood, ICR, our 35th year in employment services in the Valley, exceptionally strong. We're bi-coastal. We're now on the East Coast, also service the West Coast. Of the East Coast, more in executive recruitment. Here, what we talk about and what you hear today is really conditions of the employment market, the challenges that employers have, and really what we see is some real potential solutions to some of the challenges, especially with the industrial growth, and how to protect those opportunities and move forward proactively. So thank you again, Jason, for having me a part of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you all for participating today. Thank you. Dana, I'll start with you since you were mentioned by the city of Hesperia, town of Apple Valley. You get around. Covington has invested quite a bit into our region. Talk to us about what you have planned for the future and in a broader scale, industrial expansion into the high desert.
Sure. Don't leave Victorville out too. So,
oh no,
and we'll eventually get to Adelanto and Barstow. But we started investing in. It predated me by a couple decades, actually. Our first investments in the high desert, and our first project of scale, the Hesperia Commerce Center 1, which we just finished the construction and the lease up of 3.2 million square feet that I think everyone's well aware of, just off of I-15. And that's the first of many to come. Our reason for investing here was we saw that there was a perceived physical barrier, a disconnection of the high desert from the Inland Empire, which is, it's certainly the country's best industrial market, if not the world's. And we just didn't think that made sense when you could go 20 minutes from North Fontana and arrive in the high desert. You go 20 minutes from Fontana east or south, and you're still well within the ring of development. So we thought if you build it, they'll come, and it proved to be right. So that's kind of at the surface, though. What we really see as the long-term driver of future growth here is the labor pool. 80,000 people a day drive down the hill. Depending on who you ask, it's somewhere between 20 and 30,000 of those workers is commuting to a job in the logistics industry. They would love to stay here. That's great for the future businesses that will be in our buildings, and it's obviously great for the community and those workers that, you know, they get 2 to 3 hours of their day back each day. So, you know, we're very bullish on the long-term growth of industrial in this market.
Oh, thank you. John, little project, and it's only taken a few years. How long? I mean, this project's been decades in the making.
This guy started the entitlements. When Dan said something about, hey, it could take 2 years in Chicago to get entitled, I leaned over to Randal and I said, he doesn't have any clue what it really takes. California, we bought the property in 2012. We broke ground in 2022.
10 years.
So it was just a little bit of a hoot to get there. But it is moving forward now. So we're excited about that. We'll be delivering the first homes, sites to builders this fall, and we'll be opening the model complex. Rebecca, I'm disappointed to tell you we're a little slower than I'd hoped, but we're going to be opening the model complex first quarter of 25. We have 4 builders that'll be building in our first community. We released 489 lots. We sold all of those, and we will have Lennar, Richmond American, and Watt Homes have all finished their diligence and started their planning. We have an additional builder that's still finishing their diligence and getting in planning, so we'll be able to release them, their name, within the next 45 days. We will deliver 300 homes the first year. I might jump into the next question already, didn't I?
No?
No? Okay, good. 300 homes the first year. We'll do 500 homes or so the second year. By the third year, we should be at a pace of about 700 homes a year. There'll be a point in this cycle where we bring our age-qualified product. We have 3,000 of our homes are going to be age-qualified. When we bring those online, we anticipate that we'll be somewhere around 900 to 1,100 homes a year that'll be delivered. So over the next 15 to 17 years is the expectation of how we'll do that. It's a master plan community. It's something very different than's been done in the Mojave River Valley. So we're kind of plowing new ground. It's been educational for the city of Hesperia and for us working together and creating a partnership. I've been blessed to work with the city of Hesperia because it has been a partnership. They've really taken the opportunity to learn about master plans, what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and they've embraced it and have been really good partners with us. And I look forward to these next few years when we actually open and get something going on. We're fully graded on all of the first phase. Infrastructure's going in now. Rebecca mentioned we're building a bridge across one of the washes that we had to do. Yesterday we had to raise the Edison power lines to get enough clearance under the power lines to put a new road in. That took a year and a half to get figured out, and it took Edison 2 days to install it. So it's kind of crazy.
Classic. Randal, I know Lewis has been up here for 3 decades, if not more. Significant investment in our community, including Apple Valley Commons, High Desert Gateway. I heard you speak probably a year or 2 ago, and you mentioned that retail is transitioning to service-based shopping. In other words, kind of away from goods and services you can purchase on the internet. Obviously, Amazon has taken a large chunk out of retail. So what do you see for the future of the High Desert as far as expansion in retail and what type of services?
Sure, thank you. And thank you for hosting this. I am not an expert on the High Desert. We've been here a long time, but there's 300 people in this room who know more than I do about it. So I'm going to try to speak more from a historic point of view and also a regional point of view, what's going on here from the regional point of view and how it impacts the retail. From the regional point of view, what's going on, we heard this morning this is a year of caution. While there's truth to that, I look at it completely different. This is a year of transition. This is a year of optimism. This is a year of hope. We're at the beginning of a new era for the High Desert, and it's going to certainly impact retail. The things you've heard about this morning, the number of jobs that Covington's going to bring or Prologis, the impact of what John is going to do, and you can't overstate the impact of what Silverwood's going to have, not just on Hesperia, but on the entire region. Because John and his team are marketing mavens. They're going to do such a great job of spreading the word, come up and look at Silverwood. And there's going to be a spillover. Not everybody's going to buy at Silverwood. And a lot of them are going to say, I like it, I'm going to go look other places. So I don't think you could overemphasize their impact. And you're going to hear from Lena next. The impact of BNSF is going to be incredible, not just in Barstow, but the entire region. And it's going to impact all of the retail also. I think we're going to hear from Lena. She'd like some help, and all of us, we need to do everything we can do to help Lena succeed in her efforts. So what's going on here is not only those good things, but then the housing picture. And that's where the region comes in. In terms of the housing picture, you talked about the distance from North Fontana. Well, if you want to get a detached house in North Fontana now, it's $600,000 to $800,000. Rialto has some houses that are going up to $900,000. Cucamonga has some properties we were involved in where the condos that are $500,000 to $650,000. So everything is poised for success here. And what that's going to mean is that there's going to be a new wave of growth that the retailers are going to look at. There's going to be new kinds of people coming here, and there's going to be new kinds of incomes coming here. And that's what I think is going to be significant for the retail picture. We heard this morning so many of the success stories. Sprouts are coming here. Even more car washes are coming here. So many new restaurants are coming here. And so I think that you're going to see the whole level of retail in the high desert go up a notch. It's not going to be Neiman Marcus. It's not going to be a Four Seasons hotel. But I think you're going to see the interest from the retailers to bring it up an entire notch. I think you're going to see different people moving up here. I mean, historically, and again, we're not an expert, but it seems like a lot of families moved here for quality of life. You got a lot of retirees moving here for quality of life. I think with the job growth from what everyone's bringing, you're going to see a lot more singles and couples moving here too. Yes. We'd love to see a Trader Joe's, yes. And so, Jason, I think what that's going to mean with more income and more people and a more diverse population, you're going to see everything get ramped up. A lot of those retailers that have been on the sidelines are going to say, I want to look in the high desert. I want to see where I can best make a fit. In terms of the services, the first question, we're seeing this in all of our shopping centers, that more and more, because what's fueling the industrial growth here is all of the people like Amazon and FedEx and Walmart. That's not going to stop. You heard this morning that there's a slowdown in industrial, and that's true. It's going on. But if you just said, are we all going to go back to going to stores to buy everything, or are we going to stop ordering online? That's not going to happen. What that's going to mean on the retail sector is I think there will be more services going in the centers. You're going to see more dentists, more eye doctors going in the centers. You're going to see more services. What are the things you can't get done on the internet? And so it could be hair services or tattoos or eyebrows or tax preparation. You're going to see a lot more services. I think you'll see the shift of the tenants go dramatically to services, which is a good thing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So, Robert, we've had a lot of discussion this morning already about job growth from industrial, from housing. What do you see as the impact of jobs coming online and into our employment up here? You have a firsthand insight to our employment. And what challenges possibly do we have as we grow so quickly?
I think across the board, I think currently we're basically already at full employment. And when I say that, we know how difficult it is to attract professionals. That's going to be one of the biggest ongoing challenges. I think the real key as we look here at the college, when I say that we're here today, is how do we look at technical trade programs and how we're going to win this from Cal State San Bernardino to Victor Valley College is really growing our own. And that's going to be that. And the next big opportunity and challenge is how are we going to bring people off the freeway? We all know the nightmare anytime traveling in the past with construction. And we do know what we export in professionals as out-migration for employment opportunities. But in the days, and I'd say recent past, we always assumed that we could bring in a 20 or 30% lower labor cost to entice people to come and stay. That's not the case any longer. Wages have to be, benefits have to be, and then, downstream, we really have to look how we're going to protect the companies that do move here when we look at logistics. The advantages we have are mass. This year is the first year South Coast implements on logistics and warehouses some pretty stringent air emission rules. And the penalties associated with those is just going to further enhance our opportunity in logistics development. Burlington, as we say, can't be understated with what it's going to bring. And it's a well thought out plan that's going just to bring great value. But for the existing employers, we have to really look at how do we grow our own. We're in the recruiting business, and I could share an example of a professional entry-level opportunity. Person in the Midwest at a $70,000 compensation had an opportunity for a $110,000 opportunity, and when they did the math, they just could not make it work. And that was coming to our community. So we're going to have to grow our own. We're going to have to get better at it because that's going to be the key to our success. We work with very proactive industries. Those that focus on growing their own have a high level of retention and success. And it's going to be the key to the companies here, and then just bringing those opportunities forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Dana, when working with prospective tenants for large format industrial spaces, what's the feedback when you start discussing the high desert?
It's mostly been working with brokers.
Yeah.
From where I sit, it's certainly we interact with the tenants, but a lot's changed since the Hesperia Commerce Center 1 project. So when we were trying to kick that off 2021, it was hard to get people to come here. It's like, nah, no one's going to go there. Like, I'm not going to take this to my tenants. They're just not going to be interested. And one of the things that we came to realize is a lot of these businesses are like the key people, like the warehouse manager, didn't live up here, and so he wanted to stay closer to where he lived, and so there was a lot of hesitancy by that person maybe to not want to explore options up here. But these companies realized a good chunk of their workforce was up here, and just employee retention with a lot of these industrial users is so critically important. It's a very competitive for key employees, down in the Inland Empire proper. So they spend a lot of money having to replace employees. So that I'll get back to what I said earlier. That ability to attract the employees up here is what's really going to drive the long-term success. And we are now seeing that play out. Our next round of projects we have that are pretty much ready to start construction in Hesperia. We're on every single tour for anyone that's got a requirement for 1 million square feet or more. We're on every tour, whereas that was not the case 2 years ago. We were really having to work hard to get people to come up here. Now, we're one of the first stops on the list. So just been a real change.
So within a couple of years, we've moved from not being in the discussion to being part of the discussion. So.
Correct. And, there's obviously been a lot of success out at SCLC.
Yeah.
But, our projects in Hesperia are a little bit different. I mean, we're a good 20 minutes closer. And so I think it's, people went out to SCLC because you could build it. The land pricing was attractive. Yeah. The infrastructure was there. And so there was a unique set of tenants that were the first movers out there. And the next round that's going to come here, they're people that are looking all over. They're not just looking for the lowest price option. They're just looking for the best option. And I think we've really established now that Hesperia is as good a location as anywhere else. And from there, we're going to do the same thing in Apple Valley, same thing in Victorville with our other projects there. I think it's the whole old adage, you build it, they will come. They've come and they've looked, they've liked it, and I think the future is very bright.
That's great. That's great. John, next 5 years, I know you kind of went in a little bit of Silverwood development and also what you're looking to deliver on homes. What do you see the commercial aspect of that coming on a later date or a sooner part of the development?
Actually, we originally had thought it'd be much later in the process. But what we've learned is that there's such an underserved commercial market on the south side of Hesperia that we think that after the third year of our development, Randal will be out there building a grocery-anchored retail center, certainly, and we'll hopefully talk him into doing something even bigger.
Yeah.
But we really feel like we have about 90 acres in our town center set aside for support development. We talk about it all the time. We're building a city that's going to ultimately house 55,000 people in our project. When you have 55,000 people, you need the plumbers, you need every single service that you can think of, and there's an opportunity for that to occur within the Silverwood community. So we'll be working jointly with the retail developers, particularly the Lewises, just because we think they're the best at that in the world at that, and we'll be bringing that on much earlier than I had anticipated. It'll go over the life of the project. We're working with Dr. Walden here, trying to talk him into doing the Hesperia campus for Victor Valley College there. You need to do a Hesperia campus. We would love to do that. So we're just going to continue to look at those opportunities. We know medical's going to want to come there. We know those kinds of facilities need to be there, and they're going to happen sooner than we thought they were. So I would say if we think in year 4 through year 10, I think you'll see some significant growth in that sector at Silverwood.
No, that's great. Randal, I think he just committed you to building 1 million square feet of commercial space. So, obviously we know your retail background, but you also have, the Lewis Companies is actually began as a housing company, I probably get this wrong, 55 years ago?
Was in the mid-1950s. I was 4 years old, so I can't remember what year it was.
I won't hold you to it. What do you see as for opportunity? Obviously, we have Silverwood coming online, but we'll have a need for housing. What do you see the need in the high desert, not only for just housing, but also for multifamily and affordable housing?
Sure. Well, as I was preparing for this, it was good news, bad news. Now I'm going to use tailwinds and headwinds, so in honor of this morning's speaker. I mean, first, the tailwinds. There's so many great things going on. I mean, one of them is the number of jobs that we've heard a lot about. One of them is now the price advantage of this area over down below the hill. But there are a couple others that are really important too. And we've seen in our other marketplaces, and I'm sure it's going to be a factor here, also the hybrid lifestyle, where most of the companies are saying you don't have to come to work 5 days a week. We're getting a lot of interest in places like Chino, Ontario, Fontana, from people who are saying, I'm tired of commuting, but luckily I only have to do it 2 days a week or no days a week. I think we're going to see even more people coming here because I believe the hybrid lifestyle is not going to go away, that the offices are not going to be able to get people back in. Another thing that's coming, and I mentioned earlier, I think some of the people coming here are going to be different in the future, is that Harvard produced a study that was released this morning, and it was talking about millennials, that so many of the millennials were really attracted to the downtowns, the hipness and the coolness of downtown San Francisco, downtown LA. A lot of the millennials now are rejecting that, and they're saying maybe we don't want to be in a downtown with a lot of the crime, the traffic, the homeless problems that you have. So I think that too, that we're going to see a millennial shift where more and more of them are going to want to come out to the suburban areas because they know sooner or later they're going to start families, most of them. They're going to be like their parents. They may do it 10 years later, but they're going to be like their parents. So that's the good news, and it's all really positive. The headwinds, the bad news is this. There's just a tremendous mismatch between the incomes, the amount people can pay for homes or pay for rent, and the cost of the housing. And that's something where Scott talked about it, having to be really creative. That I think it's probably the biggest challenge I see on the housing side here. When John talks to a home builder and they look at their numbers, the materials and the labor are going to cost the same. If someone buys a refrigerator or carpet or flooring, it costs the same whether it's shipped to Victorville or whether it's going to Fontana or Chino or somewhere else. And so you just can't cut the cost on that. The only way it's going to do it is going to be with the infrastructure or with something, help on fees. You can't get rid of fees. Cities need money to survive on land cost and certainly on density. So I think one of the real challenges is going to be that mixed match on rental prices or sales prices and how to get creative. It's going to take partnerships with BIA. I think it's going to take some funding. I was really interested hearing earlier that there may be some new funding mechanisms, but it's going to be how to work together. I think one of the secret weapons up here is the government up here. And again, we deal at any time between California and Nevada, probably 40 different cities. You have really great elected leaders here. You have really good city managers and city staff here. And I think rolling up the sleeves, that's what we as an industry have to do, is figure out how to get the prices down to where the people can afford it. Just what you talked about, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, when we were talking the other day, it was a great discussion about the impact automation is going to have, especially in logistics, warehousing. But you mentioned 7 different areas that automation will be challenged and might be a growth opportunity for the desert. Can you elaborate for us?
Yeah, absolutely. As we look at the challenges, one, if we look in logistics and we look in the investment of really pure automation, I'll give you an example. Client we work with has 2 parts there, center automated. That employs 1,600. The center section, all these are 400,000 square feet, has 80 employees. They're fully automated. And if we don't really kind of start addressing proactively and as a legislative point on what's referred to as PAGA, and that's here in California only, is a lawsuit action which really targets large logistics centers. At this point, it's a challenge. I can go any questions afterwards, but it has to be addressed because it's a threat to accelerating automation and any other threat to the industry that, and from my perspective. It's literally, since it enacted in 2010, it's created over $10 billion in fines and settlement penalties. 70% of that goes to the Department of Labor. Another 27% of that actually goes to the attorneys. And for the people actually involved, it's literally pennies at the end of the day. When you think kind of mirrors a class action lawsuit, at the end of the day, the actual plaintiffs end up out of a $10 million settlement, $12,000 each, and then you do a look back of over 3,000 people and it's pennies that they receive. That's a big threat because in my talking to the logistics centers, they have to have and justify a return on the investment to automate, but this is certainly making a difference. So one of the things we say as an advice when we look at people coming into the community is spend a great deal of money on your records. Your record keeping of time and attendance, lunch violations, everything that collectively goes into this measure. If you spend the money to make sure you're on top of it without problems, you can succeed with very minimal penalties and fines. But if you don't, it literally is going to cost you millions. And that's a separate action. But going back to your first question, Jason, anything that can't be automated with manual dexterity, when we really look at the trades, from electricians to plumbers to carpenters to mechanics to maintenance, those in the coming decades won't be. And I love always saying, you know, have a stopped up bathroom at a dinner party at your house on a Saturday and then call a plumber. Okay, it's not inexpensive anymore, my folks. They're great career pathways. We need to really start bringing those back. We should bring them back to middle school. They should be enforced in high school and really become a career pathway because they'll succeed and they won't be automated in the future, Jason. So thank you.
Thank you. I know we're running a little short on time, so I'll close out with a little bit what you see, Dana, as far as for the next 5 to 10 years in the industrial space and any additional comments that you think are beneficial for the high desert.
Sure. Very bullish over the next 5 to 10 years. You know, there's a lot of macro factors that are going to continue to drive industrial growth, e-commerce probably being of primary importance, but, you know, global supply chain uncertainty, you know, there's a whole host of reasons why we're going to continue to see future growth in industrial. The high desert's definitely poised to capture its share of that growth. You know, just as far as, you know, what's going to evolve within our industry going forward, I think bigger buildings, that's both in footprint size as well as building height, so you get more storage volume. That's going to be, you know, continue to increase as technology allows you to move product higher, and fire protection systems can protect that product. So you will see that. And some of the things people talk about with future automation and driverless trucks and things like that, I think a lot of that's still too far out for me right now. But I don't think it's going to change the fundamentals of industrial buildings. And Southern California is the biggest consumer market in the country. And we need to keep a lot of product here close by. So again, I think we're very bullish on the long term.
Oh, thank you. John, 20-year project, you said. So 5 years to 10 years from now, I feel like Silverwood is like almost priming the pump. Once you get the water flowing or the houses flowing, it will seem to almost be on autopilot. So where do you see Silverwood 5 years from now and then in 10 years from now?
Yeah, I really believe that what we're doing is providing an opportunity to elevate the housing element across the whole region. And it's one of the things that Randal made mention of it earlier, the cities that we have good management, we have the good opportunities to work together. I really see us being a catalyst for a more regional approach to addressing the housing needs up here, as well as all of the industrial and retail needs. We have an opportunity. I think I heard the gentleman from Adelanto talking about we have all these growth going on, but we don't have any place for people to live. Or one of the other fellows was talking about the same thing. I know Eric Schmidt I saw him earlier today. He told me one of the biggest problems he had at times was getting people to want to work here because we didn't have an adequate housing stock. I think that you're right, Jason. A project like ours will prime the pump, and it'll get the attention of all the other builders who will look up here because, as Randal mentioned, affordability still is available here. We're going to be able to deliver our first homes from $450,000 to $650,000. The house right down the hill in Nara Hills is going to be $900,000. So we have an opportunity here. We get it started. I think if we can get regionally all of us to think about creative ways to address infrastructure, we will ultimately see some significant growth up here. And the 500,000 people that we have here now, I think that has an opportunity to grow significantly.
Thank you. Randal, opportunity moving forward in the desert. What do you see?
We're a company that does just about all the product groups except the office, thank goodness. And so, and we're really excited today, and we've been excited for the last few months. We're hoping to have a good presence in Barstow to work with the city on a big project there. And one of the things we're lucky as a company, we're well capitalized, so we don't have to get loans. We self-finance all our projects on the construction and land acquisition. So I know we're going to be looking at opportunities for retail, for residential, for industrial, to see if we can bring our expertise and our capital to try to find. I mean, we're a selective company. We don't do everything. But we would love to get involved in every city up here and do more work. We're big believers.
Thank you. Robert, not that I'm closing us out today with an employment, but 5 to 10 years from now, where do you see the employment market?
I say to everyone in the room, look to the north, look to the west, look for 1 million people. The aggregate community is probably 500,000 plus between the high desert and the Victor Valley. If you look to it's just going to continue to grow. Had an earlier conversation last week. Someone brought up the old E220 corridor going here to Palmdale. I think that's going to be a conversation that's going to be revisited. If we look at the aerospace and DoD employment, they bring in about 17 to 18% of their employees from the desert. Making that an ease pathway needs to be a conversation. I believe Brightline is the answer. If you get the opportunity to go to Florida, it's an amazing transportation tool. It's needed here. It'll bring a lot. It'll bring a great deal. I would say again, our growth can't be understated. No different than when I think those that have been in California for a long time. My folks moved up here in the early 70s. There were 6,000 to 7,000 people in Apple Valley, 20-something thousand in Victorville. But if we look, let's take Fontana, look at its transformation. We're set for the same transformation, from housing to services to infrastructure to opportunity. That's going to be the next decade. Can't be understated. Our challenge is going to be, again, grow our own bring people, keep them here, show them the opportunity. You've heard about housing and the difference in the impact. We know from logistics what's coming our way, 30 million plus square feet. So it's going to be an amazing time, and it's going to be an improvement from everything that we see today for everyone in our communities. That's what I say.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.